Okay, so welcome class. Yes, so absolutely, Jawad, the culminating activity. I do not have a specific time as per the requirement. I'm just open to the directions of the school principal. So you and your classmates are supposed to work on it. We're not sure if we're gonna calculate it to the first term or the second term, but anyway, we just do it. Two of the class students did the written part. We're still waiting for the presentation part. So your classmates are about to finish the presentation part on Sunday. So you still have time, Jawad, to work on it. And by Sunday, hopefully you are ready both the written part and the presentation part. Now, the presentation part would be you guys are going to create a PowerPoint presentation based on the assignment you created, the poem that you chose. Remember, it's all about your choice. There is no obligation whatsoever. You choose the poem and you answer the questions, the 17 questions based on the choice of the poem, because this is kind of you an opportunity to try to figure out how to analyze a poem, how to understand it, and how to look at the different themes in a poem. Having said that, it is up to you to do it. Like, it's an opportunity for you to get good grades, which I think most of you will be able to do that. The PowerPoint presentation is equal in the grade, so you have to do it well also. And as per the rubric, you will be judged by the rubric for presentation, which means by that time, you are going to share your screen and then you are going to talk about your presentation, your poem. So having said that, you still have time to practice, and there is no room for you to be shy or intimidated. We are all learning, no worries at all. Just speak up and share your work. Okay? Any questions so far? So as you can see, there is room of flexibility, and we work at ease as per this activity. For today, again, we will be discussing how to analyze a Shakespeare quote, and then we will have a quiz. So please don't go anywhere, okay? Are we ready for the class, everyone? Responding to me is part of your class participation, by the way. You need to respond. Yes, okay. Thank you, Yasser. All right. All right. So as simple as that, we always talk about how do you analyze a quote? And then I give you example to show you how you need to. Okay, just a minute. Are we recording? Okay, perfect. Recording is really important for those who come late a little bit or they are absent. They can always find the recordings on our Google Classroom. So if you miss anything, you still can go back and check. So the first step for analyzing a quote is to underline the key terms. First of all, you need to know what are you going to talk about, the most important pieces. So just underline them. This strategy will help you to actually identify the key terms in the first place. Look for words that you don't know or words you do know that tend to hold lots of connective meanings. Look for words that the author uses frequently, like repeated words or a cliche or a certain word that the writer is using all the time. And figure out why is the writer using this word quite often. So you can also look at those words or that the author invented or repurposed. Those are the words you want to underline. Write those below the quote, giving each term one line in between the other. So this is kind of when you are practicing, when you are just training on how to do the quote. Of course, you cannot do that in the test. In the test, you will be, or in the quiz, you will be just writing right away. Then you need to paraphrase and define the key terms. So you're not going to repeat what is already written. You need to paraphrase the meanings of the topic, what the writer wants to tell you. So we're going to write briefly about what the word means to you when removed from the quote and the context of your reading. Especially with Shakespeare, the difficult English or the Old English, how would you interpret it into modern English? So here is the time for you, when you paraphrase, is to use the modern English. If you just repeat the thou, thee, all the tough, hard language of Shakespeare, then you are not doing anything. So you need to simplify and give us the modern English. Think about the term all by itself. What does it usually mean and how would you use it in a sentence? Exactly. When you have the word that is a little bit difficult, remove it and think of the modern meaning and what does this mean. Connect each term together. Then here you think about the definitive meaning and the connective meaning. It's important for you to notice the connectives, like although, despite, nevertheless, that is, all of these connectives are really helpful for your understanding when you are decoding the quote of something, especially if it is for Shakespeare. You put them, or how these words change together. Sometimes you have one word that has nothing, no relation to the next or neighboring words, but when you decode it, when you try to analyze it, it makes sense. Why the author used them. It's important to understand why the author is using those words. Then you connect the terms to the quote and put together all the connectives and definitive meanings that you have extracted from the key terms and think about them in the context of the quote. Definitely, when you decode, when you change the Shakespearean language to modern English, you would be able to figure out what the whole line means, the whole stanza is talking about what, the whole scene is referring to what, and then you try to definitely pass by the literary devices. You need to tell me, and Shakespeare here, you use the like or as for the simile to show the resemblance between X and Y. Or he used this statement in ironical tone or ironical mode to highlight the importance of so and so, or to shed light on so and so. So these are really important to mention. Also talk about the tone, the diction meaning the choice of the words. Why did Shakespeare use those words? What type of words are they? Long words, short, many syllables, one syllable, hard word, difficult word. You took something, give me one line concerning the diction. You can also refer to the mood, like when you say Hamlet, when he had his soliloquy, to be or not to be, the most famous one. He was in a melancholic mood. So you have to mention what type of mood is this. If you read The Merchant of Venice, it's the mood of sarcastic and the mood of being ironical. Romeo and Juliet, the mood of romance, and so on and so forth. Mention something related to the figurative language, whether it is a metaphor, simile, imagery, alliteration, onomatopoeia, personification, and I'm sure you can figure it out. Because remember, even the drama in The Tempest, there are poetry included. That's why, to be honest, poetry is really, really important for you to figure out, because you will be able to use the same style, same technique in analysis also in the novel. Later on, when we go to the unit of the novel, you will be also required to do this. Explain the significance of the quote, show the importance of the quote with respect to your argument and your own ideas. Definitely, when you see the dialogue here referring to what, and then how you interpret, how you figure it out, it is important for us to see your own words. And please, I can't get enough of stressing the fact that we need to see your own writing, your own words. As I have told you so many times, it's okay to have a look at other resources online, look at how they read about it or how other people interpret. But the most important thing, when you put it on the paper, it must be your own words. So simply think of the W is for writing the quote. The P is for the paraphrase. The A is for the analysis. When you analyze, do not forget to write about the figures of speech, the mood, the tone, everything here should be here. So when you write the quote, you would tell it's taken from where, which act, to where, and so on. The paraphrase is to repeat what you read, but in your own words, in modern English. The analysis, you would be talking about all these, the terminology that he uses, the similes, the metaphors, and so on and so forth. And then the evaluation is really, really important. What does this have to do? What is the significance of this to the poem or the act you are reading? Significant is really important in your analysis to the quote. Is there anything you do not understand so far? Is it clear what we have mentioned now? Is this clear? Okay. All right, perfect. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna see, let's say, the most important quotes in The Tempest. Please, I want you to pay extra attention, because right after the break, you will have a quiz related to identifying the analyzing the quotes, and of course writing the significance. So really, really important to watch this very carefully, and I want you to take down notes while watching. Here are the most 10 the 10 most important quotes in The Tempest.
To this video on Shakespeare's The Tempest. In the next few minutes I'll use just 10 quotes from the play to help you get an understanding of the main themes. Our first quote is, "If by your art, my dearest father, you have put the wild waters in this roar, allay them." These words are spoken by Miranda, the 15-year-old daughter of a man called Prospero. She lives on a largely deserted island and has just witnessed a huge storm at sea, the wild waters. And that looks like it's going to be likely to sink a passing ship. She suspects that her father has used his magical powers, or his art, to create this storm, and she's asking him to stop or allay it. What she doesn't know, but he's about to be told.
Events are back, you guys. Events are back. They're booking speakers like you. They're paying them $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, and they're back. The world is open. I got an email from a...
Is that they have been stranded on this island for the past 12 years because of the people in the ship. Prospero's younger brother, Antonio, was helped by Alonso, the King of Naples, to depose Prospero. Antonio then cast Prospero and Miranda adrift at sea to die, when Miranda was only 3 years old. Fortunately, they were washed up on this island. Now, Antonio, Alonso, their courtiers and servants fear being drowned because they think the ship is sinking. And when they reach the island, Prospero will have an opportunity to take his revenge. Our next quote is spoken in the second.
So I just want you to focus on the first quote here. How the instructor gave you the style of analyzing this quote. You do not have it enough by saying Miranda said those words to her dad, and that's it. You needed to explain a little bit more the context of the event itself, and bit of a background that she was left on this deserted island with her father 12 years ago. And you also need to talk about the irony that you could see here, how strange, how funny. The girl is asking her dad to save the ship that is facing the tempest. She doesn't know that the father is also, her father is a magician, and he is also able to stir the wind and the tempest against those people, because those people harmed him. I need to see this in your writing, in your analysis. And if you could see also in that video, the instructor underlines the difficult or new words. It is important for you also to mention the use of words. Remember when we talked about the diction, you need to focus on the diction of the writer in that scene. Not only to mention the people who are speaking in the scene, but also you need to mention who is affected by what happened in that scene. All right, so but this way you put it in a form of a paragraph, and then you start focusing on those points. Remember, each point of these has marks. So when you mention the act, the scene, what happened, who were there, what is the significance, each of those points has a mark. And of course, you don't want to miss any of those marks. Okay. Okay. Okay, Larine. Okay, everyone. But please make sure you watch the recording on the Google Classroom just to guide you in your quizzes and your assignments. Okay? All right. Perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll continue the other quotes. So the first quote, please, I want you to write down notes. The first quote that is like, you know, you may never know, you might have it in the exam or the quiz. Continue the rest of the quotes.
Second scene by Prospero. Me, poor man, my library was dukedom large enough. At this point, Prospero is telling Miranda that the reason he was thrown from power was because he's devoted to learning. His library is the thing he values more than his dukedom. He seems to want to read rather than to lead. Yet it was this neglect of his everyday duties as a ruler that allowed his brother Antonio to seize power in Milan. So we begin to ask, what does make an ideal ruler? Someone connected to everyday affairs, or someone who remains remote? For Hello, my create this storm, and she's asking him to sigh when Miranda was only 3 years old. Prospero will have dukedom large enough. At this point, Prospero is telling Miranda that the reason he was thrown from power was because he's devoted to learning. His library is the thing he values more than his dukedom. He seems to want to read rather than to lead. Yet it was this neglect of his everyday duties as a ruler that allowed his brother Antonio to seize power in Milan.
Okay, class. So I just wanted to comment on the statement here when he says he is a reader, not a leader. And the whole scene here, or the reply of the guy here, look at the use of the library and reader and leader. Look at the delusion here. I want you to look at the symbolism of using the library here. So he's not only a magician and a person who reads a lot. Remember later on in the story, if they wanted to beat him, they said we steal his books and we would be able to conquer him. So again, there is a hidden message is to appreciate being educated and the ability to read and the use of the library. Look at the symbols here, and I want to see your own words. What we are talking now about is your own words. You don't have to go online to read it somewhere. You can tell and you can understand what is the message behind this talk. Okay, let's continue. Do you have any questions before we go on? I don't see any messages or questions. Okay, let's move on.
So we begin to ask, what does make an ideal ruler? Someone connected to everyday affairs, or someone who remains remote? For I am all the subjects that you have, which first was mine own king. This tells us something about the current mindset of the only native islander, Caliban. He is described as a monster and has been taught to understand language by Prospero. But as this quote shows, there is now a great deal of animosity between Prospero and Caliban. Caliban makes the point here that he was king of his own island until Prospero arrived and took his freedom. This raises a question. Has Prospero effectively colonized the island and imposed his beliefs and behaviours on Caliban?
And here is an extremely important quote that has to do with our modern time, which is the idea or the theme of invading other people's land. What happened in the US, what happened in Canada, what happened in the Middle East, it's all about superpowers coming to foreign lands and conquer them, invade them, colonization. Is this ethical? You have to think about, is this ethical? Okay, if it is not ethical and something that we should be detesting, how is the response of the natives? Remember, Caliban is a native inhabitant of the island, and who came to that island to invade it and live in it? So how do you think Caliban would feel towards Prospero? Okay, so this is a good question and a good argument for you to discuss when you relate what happened in the story to what is happening in our modern time. Pay extra attention to this quote, okay?
There's nothing ill can dwell in such a temple. The other person on the island is Prospero's daughter, Miranda, who is around 15 years old, and this is what she says when she first sees Ferdinand. He's the son of King Alonso and has also been shipwrecked on the island. Prospero has made sure that he's been separated from his fellow travellers so that he can meet Miranda. Not that she knows that. We see here her belief that what people look like is how they are inside. Because he is handsome like a temple or a holy place, he cannot possibly be bad or ill on the inside. Be not afeard, the eye.
Okay, so quote number 4 is Miranda. When she looked at Fernando and she sees him a handsome young man, she could never believe that a handsome young man from the appearance, from the outside, would be ill from inside. So again, if you want to talk about the theme of appearance and reality, that would be great here. The girl is naive, the girl is innocent, and the girl couldn't believe that people could be good looking from outside, but how come they could be bad from inside? This is a very good argument, a very strong theme to discuss too. Okay.
The isle is full of noisy sounds and sweet airs that give delight and hurt not. This is part of one of the most lyrical passages in the play, describing the magical music that can be heard around the island. The lines are spoken by Caliban, and in giving such a beautiful speech to a supposed monster, we get the impression that Caliban can be empathetic, and he does respond to the sweet airs or music and the delight it offers. It also suggests that some of the work Prospero has done to educate Caliban might have had an effect. The previous quote also makes quote number 6.
So despite talking about the beauty of the island, and the natives always love their land and like it, yes, there is music, and it's a good reason for people to come to the island because it's full of music and like, you know, the nature is good. However, here, if you ever have a quote like this, you need to mention the feeling of natives towards their homeland. Imagine how the Native Americans think about their own homeland, their land, I think they have a festival every year to play their ethnic music, and they tell the whole story of their land being conquered. So again, you can look at it into depth, emotional depth, when the natives are connected, attached to their homeland. It's important to mention something similar to this.
Spoken by Prospero, slightly more difficult to understand.
Being an executive woman is not easy. In 2003, I gave up my lipstick and pinstripe suit to go live on an island.
A devil, a born devil, on whose nature, nurture, can never stick. Prospero here is suggesting that Caliban cannot be made good. He's born a devil, and that nurture, which is education and training, cannot improve his nature. Yet, as the previous quote...
Let me stop here. This is very typical of any invader, any conqueror, okay? They look at the natives as born devil. They look at the natives as uneducated, uncivilized. If you read in history what Great Britain did to Egypt and to Palestine and to the Middle East, certain countries, Sudan, and what the French Empire did to the Morocco and the Tunisia and Algeria, Italy, what did Italy do to Libya? What did the British people do to India? What did the British people do to all over the places that they colonized? How they looked at the natives. They looked at them as born devil. They looked at them as uncivilized, need education, need to be developed. So this is the excuse to look at the natives. So here is a political background you need to discuss when you comment on Caliban and Prospero's points of view of invading the island. And look at nature and the nurture. Look at the use of the words that Shakespeare uses here. Wonderful. And then this is alliteration. So you can think about it, the alliteration and also the symbolism in nurture here refers to the education and the civilization they are going to give to the natives. In a short story or in a symbolic story as The Tempest, it is all about a person who is on the island, and Caliban represents the natives. So I want you to notice those, please. Look at the underlined words. If ever you get a quote like this, you need to explain the political side too, or the political aspect, even in our modern time. Okay, is this clear, everyone? Any issues with that? So far, so good? Okay, perfect. Let's continue.
It suggested there is something in his character that is empathetic. What we have here is someone described as irredeemable. But from what we've seen, we must doubt this conclusion. At this hour lies at my mercy all mine enemies. As the play has developed, Prospero has used his magical powers to orchestrate events. Miranda and Ferdinand met and fell in love, and their love is designed to unite Milan and Naples. Caliban had plotted to kill Prospero, but that is now under control. And Antonio, Prospero's brother, and King Alonso are now being brought to Prospero for a final confrontation. Prospero's word mercy is important here. Does he take revenge, or is he merciful towards his enemies?
So again, here we will be talking mainly about the revenge, and is he going to be merciful, or is he going to revenge for that? So you can always comment that Shakespeare uses the element of suspense here to raise the curiosity in the audience, whether the disputing parties, the enemies, are they gonna reconcile towards the end or kill each other, or what would be the end of the conflict? So here you could tell that it is used, this kind of quote is used to raise the curiosity and the suspense level in the audience.
How beauteous mankind is, O brave new world that has such people in it. Late in the play, Miranda meets all of the people who have been shipwrecked on the island, and she is amazed by how magnificent they are. Yet we know that many of them are far from admirable. We've seen several of them actively scheming to kill other people for their own advantage. Yet Miranda still thinks that what she sees on the outside, their appearance, matches what is on the inside, their character. This is important because we'll shortly find out that Prospero plans for Miranda to become the new Queen of Naples, and her statement here throws some doubt on her ability to rule effectively.
This is personally one of my best quotes ever. I don't know if you know that we have a book called The Brave New World, an amazing book that mimics the naivety, if you think of the world. It's like when you go to a wonderful city, clean, and everything is so nice, everything in its right order. And then you could never think that evil is under this city. Evil is everywhere. Drugs are everywhere. People like conspire against each other. You could never think this way if you look at a garden that is so nice, well cultivated and well maintained and all of that. And you could never think that there is something mischievous, something bad, something ugly hidden under it. So here is all about irony. So if you ever have this quote, so it is all about irony and also appearance and reality, and how people can be naive, taken by appearance. So she is still naive because of course she is 15 years old. She's too young to understand that people can be evil and can be dangerous and can be ambitious and can be like, not kind at all. So what she believes is the beautiful appearance. Oh, this is like, oh, look at the new world. Why did she say new world? Simply because she never knew any people except her dad and the creatures around in the island. It's her first time to see other men around, and they look nice, they dress well, and especially Fernando. Fernando is like a handsome guy, and she fell in love with him right away. He fell in love with her right away, and she felt that everybody is like, oh, this is a new world when she sees other people. Important for you to mention the ironical background here and the appearance and reality. I expect you, when you have a quote like this, to talk about those important things too. Okay.
Will she be too trusting of others when we know people can lie and be manipulative? I'll be wise hereafter and seek for grace. These simple words suggest that Caliban realises his error in being so antagonistic toward Prospero and will seek grace, which can be interpreted as hoping that Prospero will forgive him or that he will look to please Prospero. Now, these words are often cut in productions that adopt a post-colonial interpretation of the play. They don't want Caliban to be seen as compliant with Prospero. The contrarian argument, of course, is that Prospero's methods have eventually created a situation where Caliban is learning a new set of rules by which he will live. Lastly, a few of Prospero's.
So this is again a really important quote by Caliban. Caliban, remember, he is conquered. He's a native to the island, and the invaders came to the island. This is exactly what happens in our modern life. When Britain invaded India, what happened, if you know Gandhi. Gandhi is a great Indian protester, and he was opposing the British colonization. He was fighting them, but in the beginning, he was absolutely taken by their supremacy. Just like Caliban here, when he says the grace is their forgiveness, or they seek their care, their attention. Like if you see some of the inhabitants, when they are invaded by a conqueror, a superpower, they just try to, I don't want to say butter them up, I don't want to say they wanted to be hypocrite, but they wanted to show them that we are good as you. We wanted to, they wanted to show them that they are as civilized as them, or, oh yeah, we thank you, we can be more developed like you are. This is exactly what happened like in many countries in the Middle East when they tried to get away from their true identity and try to imitate their conquerors. So here is again Shakespeare, his genius, talking about the feelings of people who are being conquered. And look at that time, he was just writing for literature. What he touched upon now is exactly what we have seen it with our own eyes in the colonization and the people who fight back for their country. So Gandhi, in the beginning, he was mimicking them, he was buttering them up, and he was trying to imitate them to the extent that he tried to eat meat. You know that Gandhi was Sikh, and of course it is haram, it is not supposed to eat meat. And because he wanted to show them that, yes, I am just equal like you, and I am modern, and I'm civilized like you, he tried to eat meat, and he was throwing up for a long time. His digestion was refusing this. Imagine you're asked to eat pork, for example. How would you feel? Okay, so at a later point, when he started to realize that your dignity of is of protecting your land, just like what's happening in Palestine now. All the dignity is to protect your land, even if there is an occupation. You still need to stand up for your rights. Okay, so this is exactly what we can talk about when you have a quotation like this. You need to mention that it's all related to the colonization and the liberation, when people, the natives, want to liberate their countries from the invaders. Please take care of all the explanation on the side, because it is really, really important in that sense.
Final words. Now my charms are all o'erthrown, and what strength I have is mine own, which is most faint. Prospero abandons magic or charms, and accepts that the only power he has lies in his person. And he admits that without magic, his power to influence others is faint or weak. As the play ends, we'll hear that Prospero is returning to rule Milan, and that his daughter will become Queen of Naples when Alonso dies. He seems to have won, but there remains the uneasy sense that he's not returning to a life he really wants. In addition, his brother Antonio, although offered forgiveness, is silent and does not accept it. This suggests that there is unresolved trouble still ahead. So do look out for some of these features as you read, watch and study the play, and I hope that this brief video has given you some new insights that will help you to get greater enjoyment.
Okay, so as you can see, all the quotes have a reference, and all the quotes, you have to relate them to what is happening in our world. And I mean, besides talking about the quote and where is it in the play, who was speaking, what happens, and so on, you still need to talk about the relation to what is happening in the current world. Okay, for now you can take a break, and when you come back, we will be doing the quiz.